Hello students, welcome to our online class. These classes we are discussing about the concept of process. If you could remember our last session, we covered what is process, what is called process concept, and we also discussed about what is called PCB, process controlled block. So if you could recollect, processes programming execution. So whatever activity done in a computer, then we call that as a process. So related to process, we will discuss few more concept in today's session. To start with, in today's session, we will start with a concept called process scheduling. So scheduling is a activity which manages the process in running the work of the CPU. Actually, for process scheduling is a concept where any activity I do in a computer, how much time it has to be done, what are the resources available, how I can allocate work in the CPU. That is taken care by a concept called process scheduling. Once again, ಈ ತರ ಶೆಡ್ಯೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡುವುದೆಲ್ಲ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೆಲಸ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಆಪರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ will automatically take care. See, these are all the internal things which is happening. We need to just focus towards the concept and try to understand that. That's our concept given. So it's not our work. We are not, as a user, we don't involve in any of the operating system activity. It is totally taken care by the computer itself. So what it is going to be doing is, it is an activity of a process manager. Process manager also will be within the operating system. We don't have a separate manager appointed and all. That handles the removal of running process from the CPU and selection of another process on the basis of particular strategy. So one job is over, I'm starting to another job, switching between one work to another work in a computer, or simultaneously doing multiple job. For all the things, process manager need to allocate the, he has to schedule. Based upon the schedule only, it will work. Process scheduling is an essential part of multi-programming operating system. So multi-programming means multiple job is going to done at a particular time. Then we call it as multi-programming processing system. So multiple program is going to work. Then we need to give importance for all the process. Onde process ಮಾತ್ರ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ, take our mobile phone only. If there is an option that only one process will work at a time, means when you are watching, when we are looking into our WhatsApp, none of the application will work. When we are charging the phone, on other application won't do. See, even for a normal thing, when we charge, most of the time we will be browsing with the plug point on only. We will be moving around, meddling with the phones, playing games. See, there charging is also one activity. Here, playing game is also an activity. So, but it's not a good practice while charging, browsing the mobile device. But anyway, so multiple jobs are being done. Okay, so this allocation of these jobs and scheduling of these jobs is taken care by a concept called process scheduling. So when it has to schedule, there should be certain rules, regulation, condition, and switching over of things, correct? So that and all is taken care under process scheduling. So when we want to achieve maximum CPU use, okay, we want to make full-fledged CPU to use, you need to have a concept of switching of process from one system, one process to another process. Usually in our devices also like that only will happen. We don't realize, actually we have 4 or 5 application opened, means system gives equal importance for every process it does. The switching of switching of process happens, but usually we don't realize that. As an end user, we don't realize, but this is how it will happen. So for an efficient process scheduling, what is we need to have maximum CPU utilization. That can be achieved how much, means through switching process onto CPU for time sharing. Time sharing basically time based upon the time one process can be switched to another process. So process scheduler select among available process for next execution of CPU. So the concept which is going to schedule all the process in OS, we call it as process scheduler. So there will be a process manager inside the operating system, which is called process scheduler, which will take care of managing all the processing scheduling activity within the CPU. Next is maintaining scheduling queues of the process. The one process is there, only one work I am doing means it won't be a problem. Full-fledged CPU resources is allocated to one particular job, and it will fast the CPU can complete the work. But when we are trying to do multiple job and we want to utilize this multiple job, then all the work has to be queued up. Okay, yeah, whatever different activity we do and all, everything will be queued up. So scheduling those queued up process also needs certain techniques. Okay, so we will discuss in the next topic how to maintain the scheduling queue of processes. Okay, multiple jobs bandre, they should have been multiple waiting in the queue. So how to schedule those process will be discussed in this topic. Every job waiting in the queue, I call it as job queue. That we call it as set of all process in the system. We call it as the job queue. Next we have ready queue. The job queue andre whatever process waiting in the queue, we call it as job queue. Then ready queue, set of all process residing in main memory. So this is waiting for ready. My process is ready. I just need to execute the thing means then it will be in the job will be in the ready queue. See the explanation. Set of all processes residing in main memory, ready and waiting to execute. So the process is ready to execute. That will be the next thing to be done means it will be in the ready queue. Then device queue. Here every process you do, sometimes it depends upon the input and output activity, correct? So in case if your input and device and output devices are busy with some other activity, then you need to wait for device queue. For example, print you want to give, you already given a printout which contain 25 pages. So printer is keep doing the job. In between you have given another set of print with 5 pages. So what will happen in the printer? First it will finish 25 and you will be sent to device queue. Once the 25 job printout is finished, then you will enter into ready queue. From ready queue, you will go in, start doing the things. So when you are waiting for any input and output device, then we call it as device queue. Next, we discuss about how process migrate among self. So there is a facility. It's not that no, once you enter, you will be in one particular process. Process can migrate among itself from one queue to another go queue. It will be there. So once I enter, I will be in the job queue. Job queue. Once my process is ready to work, it will be in the ready queue as shown in this picture. So CPU has to allocate the things. In between, in case I wanted for any input and output activity, I need to request the input output request. CPU will see I wanted some input output. That means like example printer we wanted. Now I want the printer resources to be used means the CPU will send the request to input output request, and that time we will be in the input output queue. Like that, switching over of jobs will take care, and all the process will be simultaneously executed. So these are the concept of process scheduling. Okay. Next, we will move on to the role of scheduler. So scheduler is a technique which is going to schedule the process in operating system. Clear? So scheduler is a concept which will help in selection of process. As we have told, operating system only one process matra madake we don't use computer. There will be multiple jobs running. There will be, see, one system is on, there will be lot of system application, there will be lot of user application and all. So we need to schedule. To schedule our process, we need one particular technique called scheduler. The definition of scheduling is the selection of process and its corresponding queues. We saw, no, we have varieties of job queues there, ready queues there, device queues there. Yav queue alli irbekanta decide madake, we need one thing. That concept is done by part of operating system called scheduler. So what is process scheduler? It will select the process and also it will decide which particular queue you need to be, that but every job has to be placed, will be done. So in the scheduler, there are three types: short-term scheduler, long-term scheduler, and medium-term scheduler. Even schedule the kind of three types. So this is short-term. First, we will move on to short-term scheduling. When it comes to short-term scheduling, otherwise we call it a CPU scheduler. Okay, select which process should be executed next and allocate CPU. Short-term, the name only says short. Very fast. Any process has to be scheduled and task has to be completed. Then it should be under short-term scheduler. Here, the process ridiculously wait ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ, those kind of things will have a concept of short-term scheduler. A scheduler is invoked frequently, and these kind of short-term schedulers are invoked frequently. And next is long-term scheduler. Select which process should be brought into the ready queue. It will be in the job queue, and we need to, from job queue, when we need to bring it to the ready queue and make it to execute. So it takes long time process. So that we call it as long time scheduler. And long time scheduler is invoked infrequently. See, suddenly we can't give space. So it has to wait for a long time. So one process aadmele, next I will bring the next process. So I have to wait in the queue. So those kind of activity we call it as long time scheduler, and this will be little slow when compared with short term scheduler. Short term scheduler means fast it will do the work, but when it comes to long term scheduler, it has to literally wait in the queue to complete its task. This long term scheduler will be of two focus. One is called input output bond process. So totally depending upon input output device. ಎಷ್ಟು time wait ಮಾಡಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ it depends upon the input output process. So when it comes to input output process, our best example is the working with printers only. We will have one printers in any one office atmosphere. If you take, there will be only one printer and 5 systems will be connected. So everybody will give print job. So all the job will be connected in the print queue. Depending upon the priority and number of pages, it just keeps printing. So any job which depends upon any input or an output activity or input output devices, then we call it as input output bond process. Another is CPU bond. Here it depends upon the processing speed. One particular process is executing. Once I finish only, I need to move to the next one, means then we call it as CPU bond process. So we have discussed about two types of scheduler. One was short-term scheduler, another was long-term scheduler. Long-term scheduler we also call this as job scheduler. Next will be medium-term scheduler, and can be added. This medium-term scheduler is suitable for multi-programming. Removes from the, so here how it works means medium-term scheduler, how it works means it is not too fast nor it is too slow. So when it comes to medium-term scheduler, it just swaps the work. For example, you are using your mobile device in between and you're maybe playing some games and other things. In between, if you get a call, what happens? Your call will be, your whatever your game, what you are watching will be stopped, and you will start getting the ringtone. Correct? So your program will be swapped. Swapped means switching over to wait queue, and the call which is coming will be coming and standing in the ready queue. Once you attend the call, you will talk, you will finish off the call, means once you stop the call, then only once again the game which you are playing get activated. So temporarily you are not closing both application, you are temporarily switching one application to another application. So medium term scheduler also will work in that focus, where it switches between one application to another application by swapping process. So one queue and the another queue ke switch switch over ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು it will does the job and thing. So see this example. We are in ready queue. In case I wanted some input output waiting is needed, means my particular process is gone for input output, means it will move my job to input and bring some other job. So swap my things only for time being until I get. Once again I get back to the job, means it will switch over the process. So when it comes to medium term scheduler, it does it is suitable for multi-programming, and how it works means remove the job from the queue and it will particular job from the queue and send it to a temporary queue. Once and allow the next job to enter into the queue. Once again second job is done, means it will bring back the first job. By swapping technique it does the thing. So scheduler concept is of, it is of 2-3 types, short term scheduler, long term scheduler and medium term scheduler. Our next concept will be, we will just see a quick comparison between long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler and medium-term scheduler. So when you discuss about long-term scheduler, it is called job scheduler. Short-term scheduler is CPU scheduler. And here it is a process swapping scheduler. So medium-term scheduler is process swapping scheduler. And then speed is less, short-term scheduler speed is fast. So this will be speed is in between short-term and long-term. And it controls the degree of multi-programming to certain extents. It provides lesser control over the degree of multi-programming. And it reduces the degree of multi-programming. And it is almost absent or minimal time sharing, because here in a long-term scheduler, the process has to wait for a longer time. So there won't be a concept of time sharing at all. What is time sharing? Multiple job, one given a equal time and allow them to do the job, means time sharing system. But here that concept won't work under long-term scheduler. So it is almost absent. Here totally minimum time sharing system is focused in short-term scheduler, and the medium-term scheduler is totally depend upon time sharing system. Next, in long-term scheduler, it select process from pool and loads them into the memory for execution. So queue, ready queue, yavdadu queue unda, it has to load and then made it to execute. And here, whichever process is ready, it keeps executing. Short-term scheduler. And medium-term scheduler is every time it can reintroduce the process into the memory and execution can be continued. So on the process madvagle, in between another process will be done. Once again, the process will be recalled back. That way we call it as medium-term scheduler. So this is a quick comparison between long-term scheduler, short-term scheduler and medium-term scheduler. Next, we'll move on to another small concept called context switching. The name only says content get switched over during process. Then we call it as context switching. So when it comes to CPU is a mechanism to store and restore the state or context of CPU in a process control block, so that process execution can be resumed from same point at a later time. So what is the purpose? Means usually when we say, let it be your long-term scheduler, medium-term scheduler or anything, when you stop any process, for example, in your mobile phone, you are watching a movie, in between you paused it, then you are going back and doing some other work in your phone, and once again you come back, whether whatever you have paused, it will be in that position only. It would have not moved forward. Okay, so it maintains, resumes. So that's the point they are going to tell. So process execution can be resumed from the same point at a later time. So process, how we do in our same thing only. Process also, even if I stop at one particular point, when I resume back, it will start exactly from the point where it was stopped. So using this technique, a content switcher enable multiple processes to share a single CPU. So here what is the role of, so idu process logic ಬಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಯಾವಾಗ process stop ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೇನೋ ಎಲ್ಲಿ stop ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವೋ ಅಲ್ಲೇ it will be there. When I continue, it will continue from that position. That is the nature of process in operating system. Because of this nature, what we have a technique called content switching, which help us to multiple process to share a single CPU. So we will have multiple job, but CPU will be one. So what will happen? Every job will be given some time. So first job will be doing, second, third, fourth will be waiting. And second job will be doing, first, third, fourth will be waiting. Third job will be doing means first, second and fourth job will be waiting. And one more speciality is where you stop, it will continue the job from there. So content switching is which will enable us to do multitasking, multi-programming concept in CPU. So that's the point is given in the second paragraph. When the scheduler switches the CPU from existing one process to another process, the state from the current running process is stored in the process control block. So itara process, when we switch over, whichever you are sending it back will go and store it in PCP. After this state of process to run, next is loaded from its own PCP and used to set the PC register, etc. At that point, second process can start executing. So one process it will send it to PC, the process control block, and then restore the next process. Tiraga halaya process and restore madvaga, where you stop, it will continue. So that is the diagrammatical picture showing one process is there. In case if you are switching from process 1 to process 2, process 1 will be saved in one state, then process 2 will be called back. So restored in process 2. Same way, once again, process 2 has to be saved and process 1 has to continue, means where you are stopping, place process 2 will be saved in that particular state and process 1 will be called. So this kind of technique, we call it as context switching in operating system. Next, we'll move on to a concept of inter-process communication. The term only says inter-process, means when I can communicate with one job to another job, then I call it as inter-process communication. It's a mechanism provided by an operating system that allows process to communicate with each other. Okay, it is not communicating between a user and the CPU. It is just a communication between one job to another job. One work done in the computer with the another work done by the computer. So inter-process communication is also possible. Communication could involve a process letting another process know that some event has occurred or transferring the data from one process to another process. So when we need this inter-process communication, means one thing, if you want to inform particular event had occurred and other thing, that time it will have inter-process communication. And also when you want to transfer one information from one process to another process, it should be there. One example of transferring of data from one process to another process, when we see, we will store our contacts, anybody's phone number in contacts, correct? But once you install WhatsApp, you could see all the contacts which is having a WhatsApp connection will be listed in your phone. See, your contacts is totally a different application which was designed by the company, whichever company you are using, mobile contacts. But WhatsApp was designed by a totally a different company. So what is happening? Inter-process communication. What in WhatsApp contacts also, what data only will come? Whatever phone number you have in your phone only will be thing. So here what's happening? Transferring of data from one process to another process takes place. So in that way also we call it as inter-process communication. Or in case if you want to let any process to know that this is going to happen, like that means when you want to do the communication between the process also, then we call it as inter-process communication. So today, this class, we will discuss about inter-process communication. This is quite important concept. It will be asked as a 5 marks question. So why we need this inter-process communication means, information sharing. So same example what I was telling, let me explain. Same concept, same in case if there is no sharing of information between your phone contact and WhatsApp contact, just imagine you have 250 contacts in your phone number. So much you have to store in the phone contact. In case WhatsApp cannot retrieve your device, means in WhatsApp application also you need to store 250 contacts. So ಎರಡು time duplicate data no ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, and also unnecessary wastage of space in both the things. So when we can share the information, one place I maintain, I want wherever I want I can use. See, contacts we are storing, we will use it for calling, that is a totally a different application. We will use it for messaging, that is also totally a different application. Apart from that, we will use it for our external application like WhatsApp, Telegram app, Signal app, anywhere I want I can use it. So one main purpose is information sharing, computation speed up. So this will help us, since I am not going to use too much of I have 4 application, 4 times contact store ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ it will out of process will become slow. Here computation speed will be more. Then modularity, what I think you remember, no, model is a concept. Instead of executing one big program, we divide our program into small modules and execute, then we call it as modularity. In C program, the same concept, only we call it as function. Instead of writing one big function, we divide our function into small concept and we execute. So this will lead to a modularity of program. So that reuse, modularity benefit ಏನಂದ್ರೆ small module ಆಗಿ ಬರಿವಾಗ whenever we want we can reuse those concepts, and then convenience for the system to execute, like printing, formatting and all will be done parallelly. So these are the main concentration of maybe feature to have in interprocess communication. Same interprocess communication, how operating system can going to manage. See, this and all benefits of interprocess communication. But operating system baruvaga, how it's going to communicate with another process, that can be done by 2 ways. Okay, so when we are working with multiple jobs, multiple processes, to generate a communication between 2 processes, how it is possible means there are 2 models as are given for us. One is called shared memory, another is called message passing. There are 2 techniques through which you can do interprocess communication. First, we will start with our shared memory. Shared memory is a region of, the name only says shared memory. Shared memory is the region of memory which is shared by cooperating process get established. Processors can then able to exchange information by reading and writing all the data to the shared region. So here how the communication will take place means, see, if you look at the diagram, see, process A is there, process B is there. See, I want to communicate between, if there means I will have a common place. This process A will share its information in the shared memory. Process B can fetch the information from the shared memory. Same way, process B want to inform anything to process A. What are the resources available in process B will be shared in the shared memory. Then process A can utilize. So here, and they will have one extra space called, along with the process space, one more extra space is there, that is called shared space. From there, they will able to communicate with each other. So process can then able to exchange information by reading or writing all the data to the shared region. So anything you want to do within this process, that is taken care with the help of shared memory. So use IPC, interprocess communication, utilize shared memory that require communicating process for establishing a region of shared memory. So in this particular method, a particular region will be established. So that is called shared memory. This will be established, and process A will use the common address space of shared memory. Process B also will use the address space of this shared memory. So what are the key factors we can achieve with the shared memory means, a particular region of memory is shared between cooperating process. So the process is want to do inter-process communication, that will use this shared memory by allocating a particular region. Cooperating process can exchange information by reading and writing data to the shared memory. So They can read the data from the shared memory and also writing the data into it. It's faster than memory parsing, as kernel is required only once, that is setting up shared memory. After that, kernel assistant is not required. So in operating system architecture, if you see, kernel is a concept. Kernel is act as a heart for the operating system, which is kernel is a middleman which communicate between the hardware and the users. But here what is happening in this technique of shared memory concept, when you use kernel kelsa very on the extra space allocate madbitu, just that is called shared memory, and leave it off when both can commonly communicate with each other. So no other interference for kernel. So the whatever process communication speed between in this method will be little higher than the next method. So the first method we discussed was shared memory. Next we'll move on to our next topic, message passing. So when it comes to message parsing, communication takes place by way of message exchange among the cooperating process. So here what's happening, instead of a common place where you can share and read or write data, here to share your cross communication between the process, you need to exchange messages. So the name only says message passing. This technique is called message passing. So in this method, process communicate with each other without using any kind of shared memory. But one advantage is here no need of any extra space is required, because it's not going to use any shared memory. If two processes like here is given no P1 A and B, here I have given example P1 and P2. They want to communicate with each other, they just proceed as follows. So they use send and receive messages. See, if I want to communicate with A has to communicate with B, A will send a message telling that I want to read your data, and B will send a message, give permission to A process to read its particular data. Same way, simultaneously, vice versa, they send and receive messages among themselves, and then they will communicate with each other. So this communication can be established in two ways. One is direct communication, another is indirect communication. Direct communication means in this communication process, link is created or established between two communicating processes. So in every pair of communicating process, only one link can exist. So here in direct communication, what we are going to do, link will be when I want to communicate between A process to B process, I will establish by sending message, I will try to establish a link between process A and process B. Using the link, I will be able to communicate. But at the time, eradu kadanda link create madakagalla. So if A has sent a request for to B, that job has to be done, and then B will send a request to A and get it done. Indirect communication can exist when process shares a common mailbox, on each pair of process share multiple communication line. So second method, indirect communication, maybe they have a common cables to share information, or they have a common mailbox to share their information. So here anyway, message passing means informations are shared by sending and receiving messages, not by allocating an extra space. So what is the technique we achieve in this message passing is, communication takes place by exchanging messages directly between the cooperating process. Direct communication. No need to use a common shared space. Direct agi we can deal and finish off. Extra space bekagilla. Easy to implement. Useful for small amount of data. In case your memory size is small, and in that case it is better, and your utilization of data is also small, means this method is well suitable. Implemented using system calls, so takes more than shared memory. And here one time I want to communicate, I need to communicate only through kernel that act as a heart of your operating system, I said no. So if I want to send message or receive message, every time I need to take a permission from kernel. So when compared with shared memory, this process takes little more time. This is about inter-process communication. So inter-process communication can be done by two ways. One is called shared memory, another is called message passing. This is another small topic called cooperating process. So see, these are the terms which will be repeatedly, which will come in our concept, in the later concept. So, so you need to understand what is that. If you can understand, then the next, when you study about process synchronization, we have so many concepts to study in process only. So understanding those concepts will be easy. So try to remember this, all these concepts, whatever we have done so far. Next is cooperating process. There are two things. Cooperating term only says cooperating process. In every computer activity there are two processes. One is independent process, so which does not allow us to share. It's not that all the computer activity can be shareable. ಕೆಲವು system information we cannot share with one process to another process. So there can be independent process also, which won't allow you to share any information. It will independently work, independently finish the things and complete it off. It's not going to allow you to share anything or do anything. Another set of process, they're called cooperating process, which will be executed, affected execution of another process. But one thing, independent process agi ಮಾಡುವಾಗ, you cannot affect or affected by execution. Nobody will disturb you. You are independent process, you will do your job and you finish off. In between, no process will come and disturb you and ask for any information. But when it comes to cooperating process, but you need to, you get disturbed because another process will also request for your own information. Okay. So there are two types of processes are there, independent process and cooperating process. But benefit of cooperating processes, as we have seen before, information sharing is possible, computation speed up is possible, modularity is possible, and convenience is possible. But it's not that no, every process what we design in computer should be in a cooperative process. It should be depend upon the software we use. There are certain software which should be an independent process for security reason, like your ATM cards and all. When I have a cooperative process, one person's ATM card, somebody else also can use, correct? So in these kind of application and all, you should have an independent process. But when it comes to certain things, like as I told, no, your contact will be shared with your WhatsApp contact and all. In these kind of application, it can be a cooperating process. Next, we will move on to a concept of CPU scheduling. So we from today's session, if you could see, we were discussing about what is called process scheduling, what is a role of scheduler. Then we discuss what is called context switching, inter-process communication, and we also saw what is called independent process and what is called cooperative process. Now we will move on to our next session called CPU scheduling. As we were telling, we have a scheduler. There is a concept called scheduler which will help in scheduling the jobs. When we need scheduling, when we have a concept of multiple things to be executed, then we need a concept of scheduling. Okay. Scheduling andre on the timetable tara. Many job computer has to do. So many job when it has to do, I can't make one particular job alone to do the whole day, and I can't keep waiting for another job. Okay. For example, if I put for charging, if I say I am until charging is over, you can't do any other activity, means that means you have to literally ideally wait until your device gets charged for 2 hours. But when CPU can schedule simultaneously, you can do a charging, you can play a game, you can install some application, you can download some, you can send a mail. So multiple jobs can be done. So when you be efficiently schedule the operating system, the performance of operating system will be good. So what is CPU scheduling means? CPU scheduling is a process that allows one process to use the CPU while execution of another process is in hold. So same time, when CPU isn't executing one process, in between I can send one process to hold and make another process to do, then I can say it is CPU scheduling. How well I manage between multiple process, we call it as CPU scheduling. due to unavailability of any resources like input, output, etc., there may be making full of CPU usage. So why we need the scheduling means CPU when it's there, it should be completely used. One process is waiting for some resources. In that time, I can make next job and complete and finish off. Instead of, for example, you are trying to send a mail, but internet is not connected in your phone. So what will happen? Your whatever mail you sent would have been sent to draft. It would have been stopped. That's all. In your thing only. Mail can't go until net connection is available. By the time still, our phone won't come to standstill if internet is not there. Correct? Apart from that internet-based application, all other application will be running. So that is the speciality of CPU scheduling. One process is in hold, another process can be done. Aim of this CPU scheduling is to make the system efficient, fast, and fair. So why we need all these things means we can make our computer work more efficient, fair, and fast. When we do this proper scheduling, once again I'm telling, whatever we are studying, it's all taken care by operating system. We are studying the role of operating system. This is all for our understanding. Nam kada eno illa yatara scheduling madbeko, how the process will be, all is being designed in the operating system itself. Okay, so our focus is just to understand this work of operating system. As a user, we are not implementing any of this. System will take care of all the scheduling activity and all. So before discussing about certain criteria for CPU scheduling, what and all is the how to think and scheduling and all, we need to know some terms behind it. It will be easy for us for understanding. Next, actually CPU scheduling, from next class we will start with our algorithm. There are certain algorithms are there, very simple, and it will be very interesting also. Mathematically we can solve those algorithms and check how fast our CPU will work in one particular method and all. To do those mathematical values with CPU scheduling algorithm, we need to know certain concepts. So this session we will discuss the concept. Next class when we are doing, we will discuss about the CPU scheduling algorithm. To understand CPU scheduling algorithm, we need to know these terms. First is dispatcher. Okay, this is one term used under CPU scheduling. So any component used under CPU scheduling function, we call it as dispatcher. So dispatcher is a module that gives control to this of the CPU to the process selected by the short-term scheduler. So what is that? Dispatcher is one small process that gives control to the CPU to the process selected by the short-term scheduler. Yavel job ella ready queue ide dispatching. What is the work of thing? You go, ನೀವು ready ಆಗಿದೆಯಲ್ವಾ, you do the process. It will dispatch the work whichever is in the short-term scheduler. So that is the work of dispatcher. So this function involves switching content, switching to user mode. So here one is switching content, one job to another job. When I switch content and do also, or I can switch mode from one particular mode to another mode and execute it. So this time taken by the dispatcher to stop one process and start another process is called dispatch latency. So I'm shifting the process. We can do multiple job in our using operating system. So when I do switching of job from one job to another job, a little time will be there. Actually, this and all will be super fast. It will be millisecond. So we don't measure as a user. In our eyes, we can't measure how my activity is switching over between one application to another application. See, you are using WhatsApp, immediately you will switch over to some game, immediately you will open YouTube channel. But we don't realize that switching over time at all. But system will take some time. But we don't, as a user, it is so fast, we don't realize. So one process to another process, a small time will take to switch over, no, that we call it as dispatch latency. So that is only diagrammatically represented in the picture here about the dispatch latency and about the dispatch. So types of scheduling, when it comes to types of scheduling, you need to understand 4 states. Okay, what are the possible states available? Then we will see the types. First state is when a process switches from running state to the waiting state. When the process is executing, in between running process and we are shifting it to wait state. Yavaga one real-time example koduvaga a print job is done. Printing you have given for 25 pages. Up to 12 pages it has come. Correct? 13th page, when it's trying to give a print, paper is not there in the printer. So, which is depend upon input device. So, output, printer is an output device. So, my job is waiting for the output request. Printer, now it will continue. So, what is happening to my job? I have to wait. Yes or no? Possibly, I am made to wait. I don't want to wait in my job because paper is not there. So it has halted because of an input output request. In that case, that is one stage. Okay, that also will be there. So what is the stage? Understand? That is the first point. When a process switches from running state, it is currently running, suddenly to the wait state. How it is going? For input output request. Sometimes it based on input output request or innovation of wait of termination of one of the child process, or in between any of the child process which is dependent. Printer yaro off madbittu hogbitidare. Your job is printing. From Word application you are printing. So main application is Word, but you are depending upon the printer, correct? Somebody is off the printer. In that termination of the process, in that case, that is one situation. Second state I will tell. When a process switches from running state to ready state, you're executing some processes in running, suddenly it is because of some interruption, it once again go to the ready state. Ready state means evaga when process start madvaga, we will be in ready state. Executing process get disturbed and then it will come back to the ready state, means then that is another situation. Third situation, when process switches from waiting state to ready state. So already waiting, like a printer now, first state I was telling, printer paper illa, so it has come to the waiting state. Once again, I am filling the paper. From waiting state, automatically it will switch to ready state. Completion of input output request. Last, when process terminates. Okay, when process terminates. Here, first and fourth. Okay, first and fourth situation when you do, it is not a problem of scheduling. It is not a role of any scheduler. Paper is not there. See, first example, what is the thing? Running state to waiting state. Because of operating system, it did not go from running state to waiting state. Output device only, it is not working. Permission sikkilla. Why? Because paper was not there. So first, last also, process terminate when we complete the process. It is not. So when we are in the first and fourth, there is not too much involvement of scheduling. But when it comes to second and third, role of scheduling plays, CPU scheduling plays a vital thing. So when scheduling take place under 1 and 4, in case CPU scheduling 1 and 4 situationally, if it takes place, then those kind of scheduling we call it as non-preemptive scheduling. What is scheduling? Non-preemptive scheduling. And second and third option we call it as preemptive scheduling. So there are two types of scheduling is there. One is non-preemptive scheduling and preemptive. The term preemptive scheduling and non-preemptive scheduling will be given throughout this topics hereafter. So you should understand what is preemptive, what is non-preemptive. Okay, hereafter whatever concept you study from first chapter, second chapter also is concept of process management only. Throughout you need to understand, throughout these terms will come. So again and again I won't be telling what is preemptive, what is non-preemptive. You need to remember what is preemptive and what is non-preemptive. So when it come to non-preemptive, we will see. Under non-preemptive scheduling, Once the CPU has been allotted to a process keep the CPU until it release the CPU either by terminating or switching to wait state. Permanent agi job, it won't break the process. Okay, once I given some work, one process is allotted. In case of preemptive scheduling, in case CPU kelsa kodbitre, it will continuously do. It won't stop at all. Whatever comes, only two things. One thing it should terminate, or because of certain situation, it goes to the wait state. One example for that, we can say charging our mobile device or laptop and all. Once you put it inside the charger, it will continuously go. It won't stop. One thing, charge should be full, so it will terminate. Otherwise, it won't cut its process. Okay. Second method is power goes off. Charge won't come. Correct, it has to go to the wait state. This kind of thing. So non-preemptive means yav kelsa kotreno in between stop madangilla. When it will stop means that process is completely terminated or it goes to the wait state. That is called non-preemptive scheduling. What is preemptive scheduling is in between the task I am doing one work, in between I switch over this job and do another job, then I will bring back to this job. Like this, when we do, then we call it as preemptive scheduling. See, preemptive scheduling is a scheduling method where tasks are mostly assigned with their priorities. Sometimes it is important to run the task with higher priority before another low priority task. So preemptive scheduling will work on the concept of priorities. Yavukku importance kodbekandre adukku matra first importance kodbekagutte. So once again I'll take our mobile phone only as example because we are very comfortable with mobile phone examples than laptops and all. Anyway, you are working with some watching some video or listening to music, you imagine call comes, what is happening? Your music won't continue. Your call only given priority. In our mobile phone, priority is set for your call, not for the other application. When call comes, until the ringtone goes, your music would have stopped and call will be keep on coming. One option, you need to answer the call or you need to cut the call. So once you answer the call, your music will be temporarily stopped in that position only, and you will attend the call. Once you finish the call, cut the call and keep, automatically your music will start. So this is switching off job. First job was music, second job was call. Second job was a priority job. So priority job was given importance, and the what job you are doing in the first was halted. So when I can switch over the job from one position to another position, then I call it as preemptive scheduling. Non-preemptive scheduling means once kelsa kodbitre, I can't stop the process at all. In between, forcibly also I can't stop. Two things can stop only when I terminate or because of certain situation I make it to wait state. But preemptive athara illa, wait madangilla. By default working alone, higher priority job comes, it will stop its work and give permission for the higher priority. So when these two concepts, these two are the types of preemptive CPU scheduling. These two concepts seems to be very simple, but this repeatedly it will be there in this chapter throughout. So try to remember what is called preemptive scheduling, what is non-preemptive scheduling. Then only you can understand the further concepts. So these are the types of CPU scheduling we saw. Now we will move on to CPU scheduling criteria. So to have a suitable CPU scheduling, efficient use of CPU scheduling, what are the criteria we need to use? First is CPU utilization. How well we utilize is very important. That is the first criteria. CPU utilization. According to the devices, no, CPU utilization is I think means every time CPU should continuously run it. Okay, then it is called best utilization of CPU. Ideal time iralla. Otherwise, see, take our labs and all. Half the time it will be ideal. 9:30 we will start. Then also it will be ideal. Nobody will use. Only we will use the CPU only for 1:30 to 3:30. That's all. Only 2 hours or 3 hours we will use. So it is when it comes to not our lab thing, when it comes to measurement of CPU utilization of these kind of computer labs and all, it is very less. Why? Because we don't utilize CPU and all. But when it comes to companies and all, they will use the CPU throughout. So their CPU utilization will be more. So I should not make my CPU ideal for a longer time. Equally give importance. That is one good practice. Another thing sometimes is CPU will be ideal for some long time. Suddenly CPU starts and lot of work is being given. That is also not a good practice, because all the time it was ideal and one particular time too much of work is given, CPU won't be able to handle it. Okay. So CPU utilization means how well we balance the CPU and schedule our process and work towards it. We call it as CPU utilization. Then throughput. Throughput is total number of process completed per unit time. So the time taken to complete that one full process. Once I start a job, how long I take to complete one full process, I call it as throughput. Maximum time of throughput, we can have a good CPU utilization. Then turnaround time. Turnaround time is time taken to execute a particular process. That is interval from the time of submission of process to the time of ಒಂದು process start ಮಾಡುವಂಗಿಂದ until I finish, how much time I take to complete. That I call it as turnaround. Throughput, understand ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. So one particular time ಅಲ್ಲಿ how much process, how much work I finish is called throughput. Turnaround time is time taken to finish a particular process in a given time. We call it as turnaround time. Next, waiting time. Sometime my job has to shift to a wait position. When I'm running, job will need to be sent to wait position due to some input output requirement and other things. In that case, the sum of periods spent in the waiting time, I call it as waiting time. Load average time, the average number of process residing in the ready queue waiting for the turn to load into the CPU. Ready queue alli wait agide. Once given a chance, it will enter into CPU and do the work. That I call it as load average. Response time, amount of time that takes when a request is submitted until the first response. The time taken to submit the request and get the response, that I call it as response time. Remember, it is a time till the first response and not completion of process. Idu completion of process alla. Completion of process is not taken. Response time. First when I start doing job and getting the response back, no, that I call it as response back. To have a proper, very good CPU utilization, and for that, for the scheduling, when you want to say very good CPU scheduling you want to maintain, you need to have CPU utilization and throughput are maximized. So utilization of CPU also should be in a higher range and throughput also should be in a higher range. And remaining things are all should be waiting time, loading time, response time and all should be in a lower range. Then we can have a proper CPU scheduling. Okay. So today's concept we discuss about scheduling criteria. Here we talk criteria, what and all criteria means. CPU utilization is there, throughput is there, turnaround time is there, waiting time is there, load average, response time. Okay. To have a best scheduling, when I say which is best scheduling of CPU means when I have a CPU utilization and throughput is high and remaining things are maintained low. My process on the kelsa maduvaga waiting time should be less. When I kelsa maduvaga response time should be, I need to get the response time fast. I should not delay. Maximum response time is not a good thing. Okay, it should respond me back fast. So other things, if we can maintain in a minimum level, then we can achieve a good CPU scheduling. Okay. Next class, we will do a mathematical calculation based on the CPU scheduling. How to schedule we will discuss, and we will only with the mathematical expression we will also calculate and find out all these things. Once again, this throughput, response time and all, we will only calculate and observe how the process is going to work. Okay, to understand our next concept, understanding this theory part is quite important. In case if you're not able to follow, once again do watch the video, or if you have any doubts or clarification, put it across in the WhatsApp group or classroom app so that I will be able to clear your doubts. So today's session, we have covered quite a lot of concept. We started with process concept, then we process scheduling, then we discussed about inter-process communication, and also we discussed about CPU scheduling. In between, we discussed about the context switching also, and then we discussed about cooperative process and independent process. So these are the concept which we have covered. Try watching this video and try to understand this concept. These are all very important topics for this chapter. Okay. With this, we end our session. We will meet in our next session. Have a nice day. Thank you.